Welcome to the Self-Awareness and Self-Compassion Podcast, formerly known as the Full Spectrum Feeling Podcast. I'm your host, Blaise Schwaller, life coach, mom, and former tattoo artist. I help people heal their past, speak their truth, and love the lives that they're living now. Join me here every week for conversations on how to live an imperfect but fully engaged life that embraces all the feels so that you can stretch into your best life while enjoying the you that's here right now. So I've been working with people about burnout for the last several years, and it occurs to me that I haven't really recorded a podcast about burnout yet, so shame on me, and let's get into it. So what I want to share, actually I have so many things I want to share. The first thing that I would say is that burnout is so common, and yet it's something that we barely talk about, or we just give this passing glance at most of the time. When I talk to friends and family members, I find out that everybody has gone through some amount or some crisis in their life in regards to feeling overwhelmed, feeling stressed out of their mind. Maybe they've had a health crisis. A lot of the times it's mental and emotional, and I think that's why people are hesitant to talk about it. And there's this sense of shame that we have around somehow succumbing to our emotions or to our bodies. And we just don't want anyone to know that we're going through it. And yet, almost everyone at some point in their life faces this experience of being burnt out, of not finding joy in what you loved before, and not being able to connect with your life in the way that you wanted to, and not having the energy that you had hoped to have to follow your dreams or even to just make it through the day. And it's unfortunate that we've been so closed off as a society to admitting that this is a problem, and so unwilling to speak publicly about what's happening to us, because I think it adds in addition to the sadness and the tiredness and the inability to function, it adds this sense of guilt and shame. And I think that's a huge component of burnt out feelings in hitting that crisis, is that you also feel bad about it. It's not just that you're tired. It's not just that you're not connecting with something that you loved, which is sad and brings a lot of feelings, but it's that you're ashamed that it's happening to you. You're afraid to admit that it's happening. It's like it makes it more potent or more real if we say that, and we just don't want to be someone for whom this is happening. We don't want it to be true for us. But the tragedy in this is that not talking about it, by not saying, hey, this is what I'm going through, it stigmatizes it, and you don't get the support that you need. And other people don't realize that there's someone else also feeling the same way. Like, we're just cutting ourselves off from all of the support and all of the compassion that actually could be there for us the more we keep this stuff to ourselves. I think that society is opening up to this understanding that, we're human beings. We're not just automaton robots. We can't keep going all the time and do all the things and not have it have some consequence. So we're all aware of this, and people are starting to open up and speak about it, and we're wanting more support. We're wanting better policies, right? From our employers, from just society in general, that say you're a human being and you're allowed to have feelings, you're allowed to function as a human being. You can't be expected to always be put on, right? Give, and never take. That's not how living works. And yet, that's the demand that we've put on ourselves. When we look at our lives, we think, well, I have to show up and be the best. I have to be the best mom, the best wife, the best breadwinner, right? The best person at my job. I have to not admit where I'm scared or things aren't going well, because we always have to project this image of winning. We see it in social media where you have to project that it's easy breezy, wonderful. It seems like there's currently the backlash to that, people going, it's so inauthentic. We're upset about how there's no authenticity in that because we know it's a lie. And yet, it's a pretty lie, and it's something that automatically, you just feel compelled to do Even when you don't like the dishonesty of pretending everything's great when it's not, you still feel like you want to do it because that's what you've been doing your whole life. It's what you've seen your whole life. Everybody is doing it. So we're in this weird bumpy stage of people saying, well, I want to rip the band-aid off. I want to like pull up the cover and say, this is the ugly truth. This is what I actually look like in the morning. This is how I actually feel. But we're still really delicate about it, and we want to explain it in some way and make it more pretty. And it's not always pretty. So what is burnout? What is it? How does it come about? Is it something that just happens overnight, or is it something that builds over, weeks, months, years, a decade, a whole lifetime? And what is the experience of it like when you're in it? And then more importantly, how do we pull ourselves up and out? And I think that's something that is going to be somewhat different for every person, because we always have our own experiences and we have our own passions, and there's things that are going to pull us up and out that'll be different from your neighbor, different from your partner, different from your kid. But they all have a similar component, and it's about reconnecting with your values. But really what I've learned through my own burnout crisis, through working with other people going through burnout, so much of what really actually works, what sets you up to not go back into the pit and have it happen again and again, is about being able to be with your feelings, to actually feel them, to not pretend they're not happening. And then even when you hit that point where you're not pretending that you're not upset, to be able to sit in the upset for longer periods of time. And that seems really counterintuitive because we're people and we hate feeling shitty, crappy emotions that suck. So if I say to you like, oh, well, it seems like you're really overwhelmed, could you sit in that overwhelm? I'd say like 99 times out of 100, you're going to be like, oh yeah, sure, I can do that. And then when you try to sit in it, your body, your mind, your heart, like you look for every possible thing that isn't feeling overwhelmed. You don't want to sit in that feeling for very long, so it's hard to do. And yet, being able to be with that feeling and know intimately what it feels like without being crushed by it, that's the hard thing. Like we're always afraid we're going to be crushed by it. Being with that feeling and accepting that that's where we're at as many times as you need to is really the key to moving through it. And there's also this expectation that we have that if we sit with a crappy feeling and we're doing the hard work of being there with it, because it's hard, I'm not going to lie, like it sucks when I'm feeling overwhelmed or sad or just disappointed in myself. I'm like, fuck, this is sucking and I'm not ever going to make it, and I feel like a complete failure. Everything in my body hurts. Like I can feel tears coming up just connecting with that emotion right now. It sucks, and I don't like to be there for very long. So what does the mind do? It comes in and it wants to distract you. It says, okay, well, what made you feel good? Do you want to watch a TV show? Let's go do some Netflix. What about checking your email? Like what little tiny things can you get that are like a tiny validation and a motivation hit to make you feel better? But you do that, and guess what? That feeling that just almost had me crying, it's still there. It's not like it went away. I didn't actually get through the feeling. I went around the feeling. Uh-oh. That means it's still there. It's still lurking. So I think that leads to this sense of anxiety that is so prevalent right now, is that if you have this feeling of dread or sadness or overwhelm, whatever it is that like really wells you up with emotion that you're avoiding, if you've successfully avoided it and you've gone and done Netflix, or you went and had a nice meal, or you just, it's not that you pretend that you didn't have it. You knew you had the upset, but you tried to treat it without feeling it. Now it's still there and it's underneath everything. And it leads to this bubbling sensation of, there's something to be avoided. That also eventually wears you out. There's so many things going on, right? Like your body is experiencing chemical reactions, like it's real, it's happening, it's physical. You have to let your body process it. But we keep interrupting the processing, and we do it for so many good reasons. I think that's part of it too, is that we have so many good reasons for avoiding pain, for avoiding what we perceive as like this meltdown or giving up on ourselves. Like, we have to keep going. We can't let this happen. And so we keep doing it. But what happens is we start accumulating more and more incomplete experiences of disappointment, incomplete experiences of pain, incomplete experiences of frustration or anger or just outrage, like all of the things. And our bodies know this, and they're holding on to that energy. It's still ongoing, and it leads to us having trouble sleeping. We're not able to turn off the mind. Like, we're like, oh, we've gone through the whole day, we're busy, we're doing stuff, everything's fine. And then you hit this pause, and suddenly there's nothing that you have to do. And then what happens? It's like the anxiety bubbles up. There's something stressful there. And our experience of it is that we don't know why. Why is this happening? Why am I suddenly anxious around dinner time? And if you ask yourself, well, what's going on? Do you have anything that you have to do? The answer is no. And the interpretation we have is, oh, I have nothing I have to do. Therefore, there's no reason for the stress. There's no reason for the upset. There's no reason for it. And then we also shut that down because we've now rationalized that there's no reason to feel this way. So therefore, we're not allowed to feel this way, or we can't feel it. And it just adds to more. And then it's time to go to sleep, and you're like, nope, I'm just still going to scroll through my phone until I just can't take it anymore. My body shuts down because it has nothing left. Oh my gosh. Like, I'm so familiar with this. I've been through it. I know that pain. However, in learning how to sit with the feeling, just a small one, like just picking one. So if I go back to like I feel like a failure, like I'm not really where I'm supposed to be in life, or I'm not contributing the way I wanted to be, and there's this shame around it, I have to learn to take the moment and sit in that. And I have this image in my head, like the sad little puppy that like peed on the floor, and the owner's like, look at what you did, and you have to sit there and like, yep, this happened. I have to be here with it. And all of the feelings that you see play through that puppy, and it's like, we're the puppy. We have to sit there with the shame and the guilt and whatever it is that we're feeling and be like, yep, this happened. And part of the reckoning is recognizing that we were a part of it. It was with us. It wasn't someone else. It didn't happen to someone else. Like, we have a connection to it. There's a reason that we're feeling bad, even if it was somewhat out of our control. So rather than pushing it away and saying, well, it wasn't my fault because, you can say, well, it was my fault because I did the thing. I didn't know any better. That's unfortunate. Maybe I'm not culpable, right? Like, I didn't know any better. I did the best I could, and I did something stupid anyway, or I still failed even though I tried, but I tried, and it feels bad. It feels bad. And to sit with that and go, okay, what does that feel like? And some of the coping strategies I have for this, because there's so much, it's easier to help coach someone through it when you're actually coaching them. You can ask them the questions and help them see their own connection. So really in this podcast, I try to coach myself through it so you can kind of see how the process actually can work. So I asked myself, okay, I did a thing and I'm sad and disappointed about it, and I wanted to do better. So then I asked myself, well, why did I want to do better? Like, well, obviously because I thought doing better would mean success. It would mean, helping more people. It would mean not hurting someone. It would mean being able to support more people. It would mean more money in my pocket, like whatever it is that I think I wanted. And then to ask again, well, why is having that important? And it's interesting because you start to separate yourself a little bit while you're feeling the disappointment. This is the distraction, right? Is asking the whys. And you're like, okay, I know why I want to connect with people. It's important to me. I like having people in my life that I feel close to. I want to feel like my life has meaning. Well, okay, Blaze, why do you think your life has meaning if you've connected to people? Which seems like such a simple question, but you just asking, you're like, okay, why? Like, well, because I don't like living in a bubble completely by myself. I enjoy seeing smiles on other people's faces. I feel warm and loved when they're talking to me, they're choosing to speak with me, that we're spending time together. I like laughing and sharing meals, and that's important to me. So then I come back to the feeling, the failure, the disappointment. I go, okay, so did we not make that connection this time? And what's interesting is that my answer to that is not, yeah, we didn't make the connection. It's no, we made a connection. It just didn't happen the way that I thought it was going to. And that's where there's like this little disruption, right? Of what I was thinking or feeling. I'm like, wait, it's not that I didn't get some of the really important parts of what I wanted. It's that I connected with someone and there was a connection and I've made the effort and it wasn't as big, it wasn't as many people as I wanted. Well, why do I need more people? And the answer to that for me is often like, oh, I don't actually. I was really happy just connecting with one or two people. Oh, it's so funny. But our mind has a lot of expectations hidden in there, and there's so much like gold in asking ourselves these deeper questions and finding out where this experience is dwelling within us. So what's interesting when I'm going into my own feelings of burnout and overwhelm is I'm not asking it to go away. I'm asking, hey, why are you here? And that can be so hard. We're scared to ask why it's here because I think, I don't know, in my past, I've had the fear of going anywhere near these questions because I thought like, oh shit, if I ask and I don't know what I thought was going to come up. I think if I ask, why is this happening? My response would be because I suck and I'm awful at life and nothing's ever going to work out for me. Like that's the fear that I have is like, oh, I'm completely unworthy. There's no reason that it's ever going to work out any better. This is terrible. And if I have to face the feelings and the thoughts that are around that, that feels even worse than just being sad trying. So I'd rather pretend that I don't even have to ask those questions. But what's funny is you find you ask those questions and the feeling is kind of the same. I already feel just as bad as if it was true that I'm a horrible failure, no one likes me, I'm never going to get anywhere in life. Like that's usually the feeling of feeling crappy doesn't get any worse. It's the same feeling. We're already feeling it. And interestingly, I found that there's some relief in that. Like when you realize that I'm already feeling bad and the thing that I'm trying to avoid feels just as bad. There's no difference in how crappy it feels. I'm already living in hell. I guess I could ask that question. There's nothing that I have to avoid. There's nothing that I need to protect. You're allowed to release that. And if you've already hit the wall, if you're already feeling the feelings, you can cry, you can scream, you can let out the emotions, and there's physical release in doing that. And your body needs that release. It's so important that you recognize that you're a person in a body. You're not just thoughts, you're not just feelings. Like the feelings hurt because they're feeling in your physical space, in your muscles, in your heart, your organs, like they're all contributing to this. So when you allow them, I guess, the grace to just experience what they're experiencing, I'm always astounded at how fast it seems to move through. When I fully surrender and have like the whole body cry, in the moment it feels terrible. And then, within a few minutes, 15 minutes, at the most an hour, it's like if the crying can wash through me, if the wailing, like whatever it is, has that chance to move, it's like it also washes away the thinking that was attached to it. I definitely feel that the thoughts and the feelings, like they're connected. If you took your fingers and crossed them, like they're tight. If you allow the feeling to move, if you allow the body to let it out for real, suddenly the thought just isn't there anymore, or it's harder to access because it's just irrelevant. And you go back to thinking it and you're like, oh, it doesn't trigger me anymore. I don't feel like I'm going to cry with the same thought because I've already had the feeling about it. Now I can move on. So much relief to be had. I guess something I would also say about this is that there's a need to move so many things. I don't know anyone who only has one stuck feeling or stuck thought. And one of the reasons that we feel like we're failing and overcoming whatever it is that we're trying to do, the reason that we run into this failure, exhaustion, we're tired, we're burnt out, is that we think that there has to be one solution, like we can hit it one time. And I'm going to do this hard work, I'm going to feel this feeling, and I'm never going to feel this about this again. And that is a lie. That's not an expectation that's realistic, and it sets you up to feel alarmed and terrified when suddenly you find that a similar experience or the same situation comes up and you still have feelings about it, or you still act in the same way that you did before that caused the feeling. Welcome to being human, right? We do that, and it's okay. It is okay to be who we are and to make mistakes. It is okay to be who we are and show up and try something and fail. It's okay to still have feelings that stop us from doing stuff, to have resistance to doing things that we were showing up to do. But the more that we're willing to be with ourselves in those moments and just go, wow, I'm feeling like a failure. I feel like I'm failing myself again today. And look at it not as this huge enemy, but as just this companion on your life's path, the more bearable those moments get. So I can share with you, I think I've even talked about it before on this podcast, this fear of being lazy. I just had this idea in my head that I'm such a disappointment because I'm never working hard enough and I need to work harder and I just must be so lazy. And I can logically look at my life and see all of the accomplishments and things that I've done and go, there's no way a lazy person gets all this stuff done, has done all of these things. It just wouldn't happen. Are you actually lazy? Technically, no. Feeling? Oh, yes. So now when the laziness gets brought up in my consciousness, when I start thinking about, oh gosh, I'm just not doing enough, with my daughter, we should be going out on more trips. I'm so lazy. I'm such a lazy parent. I can't believe I'm not doing that. Or, oh yes, okay, so you're working these 2 days a week that you've managed to scrap for yourself, but are you really getting everything done that you needed to get done? And couldn't you do more? Couldn't you just stay up later every night and not get sleep and get this stuff done? And that's the lazy card coming up, saying, oh, you're so lazy, you're so lazy. And I see it now for what it is, as just, it's a thought that I am going to have, and I've stopped trying to get rid of it. Getting rid of it was so freaking exhausting, and I was never winning. I couldn't get rid of it. So I just said, you know what, I'm just going to recognize that I'm always going to have those thoughts. No matter what I'm doing, that thought's going to rear its ugly head and say, it's not enough, Blaze. You need to work harder. You're so lazy. And you just say, okay, it's there. And you can feel how you feel about it, and that's okay. What a revelation this has been for my life. My life is not the same. So I thought that giving myself that permission to just say, okay, it's just going to come up. It's part of who I am. I'm always going to think I'm lazy. And I really just said to myself, there's nothing you can do about it. You're just going to always feel that way. What if we could just say, okay, we're always going to be a little sad about being lazy, and that's what it is. So one of the reasons I didn't want to do it is if I surrender and say that I'm always just going to feel like I'm lazy, will it mean that I'll actually turn lazy? That was one. Two, am I always going to be miserable? I was afraid, but I just said, you know what? I'm too tired. I can't keep doing this. So I'm just going to say I'm going to deal with feeling like a lazy bum. And I started to do it. And for a while, it would come up a lot. I'd be like, oh, I'm just really not getting this done. I can't believe I didn't make my bed today. What kind of a lazy bum am I? Just every possible judgment I could have. But because I was allowing it to come up and not pushing it away or immediately reacting, I was like, oh, now you have a choice. You can decide, am I going to make my bed or am I going to let it go? And is it okay? it opened up all these choices. It let me see where I was really pushing myself extremely hard in ridiculous areas of my life to quote unquote prove that I wasn't the thing that I was so scared of. And as I progressed through these days and weeks, like I would hear that come up and I would go, oh, I feel kind of bad that I'm thinking that, but it's okay. I can be here and feel bad about being lazy, and this is still what I can do today. I stopped fighting it, and it was like a miracle because I didn't notice that it had happened until it was months later, and I went, wait a minute, I don't feel lazy anymore. I just don't. Why? It's been so constant. When did it leave me? How did this happen that it managed to leave? And I think what I realized was that I still would have the thought come up. I just like it just wasn't an emotional thought anymore. And that is what happened. Like it just came up often enough, I would feel it, and then it would pass really quickly. Or I'd go, you know what? Maybe I am being lazy today and I'm allowed to have a lazy day. And then another day I'd be like, actually, I'm not lazy at all. I made the bed. I did the stuff. I took the kid out. I, got the mail out on time. I ran up, did the garbage. I did my work. I stopped having to justify every action. And this part of me that is still concerned about laziness, like if I could personify it and look at it, if it looks content, it looks like it's okay now. It's not, it doesn't feel ignored. It feels like I'm able to be with it, and so it's okay. And I wish that I could explain this better or in a way that could impart what I really wish that you could feel from this. What I want you to feel is like, man, there's such relief on the other end of allowing for a crappy feeling. To just say, you know what, okay, I have this feeling and it's with me, and to trust yourself, to be with it as long as it takes. And with me, with the laziness, I gave it permission to be with me for my lifetime. I'm like, this just might be my life. My life's work might be dealing with feeling lazy no matter what I do. So I can choose to live a virtuous life where I feel like I'm taking actions that say I'm not lazy and I'll still feel lazy. And that might just be how it's going to be for me. So, okay, let's just move forward. I'm just going to live my life. And when I feel lazy, I'm just going to say, oh, hello, laziness. Feeling like shame about laziness really is what it was. Welcome back. Let's hang out. You want to eat a strawberry? Let's have a strawberry. We'll commiserate together. Life is hard. And through allowing that down feeling to be like, this could be part of my everyday. It's just going to be with me. It's so fascinating and amazing to me. I didn't expect it to go away. I didn't do it with the intention of it leaving. I did it with the intention of just being able to tolerate that this was how it felt. But the reward ended up being that it just isn't a big deal anymore. Oh my God. Everybody needs that hope in their life, and to know that it's possible. That, like, not only was there relief in the surrender and just going, hey, maybe this is going to happen every day, because it took a lot of pressure off of trying to run around like a crazy person and make it better somehow, or make it untrue. If I was like, well, if I just concede that it's true and I feel like crap, could I just be okay with that? And I want to ask you, like, is there something that you've been running from that's exhausting the shit out of you, that would feel like, in a weird way, a relief to just go, you know what, maybe this is just what it is for me, and I'm just going to feel like this, and maybe I'm going to have this for a part of every day or every week. And when it comes up, I'll go, oh, hey, there you are, and just coexist with it. And I looked at it as coexisting with this pain, and it really has just morphed. And this isn't to say that I don't have moments where I'm like, oh, geez, like that's pretty fucking lazy of you, Blaze. Like, can't believe you're not doing the thing, or you're choosing to, read a book instead of getting down to business and making making more work. but my experience of it is so minor. It's no longer this consuming affliction. Now it's just a thing that happens sometimes, which is what I think maybe life is supposed to be. Life is supposed to be moving through all of these experiences. Like, you're not meant to only have pain, you're not meant to only have happiness, but you're meant to move through all of them and not get stuck on anything. Because when you get stuck on it, then life is miserable. If you get stuck in joy, then you get manic and kind of crazy. And then eventually I think you crash, because without the contrast, without seeing where other experiences are at, how can you truly be happy and be in enjoyment? It's all so fascinating. So anyway, these are my thoughts today about burnout, about allowing of feelings, about the importance of moving through them in order to alleviate the incredible amount of energy that is being consumed in burnout, the amount of energy that's being consumed in avoidance, of trying to chase away. It's not even chasing anything. I think burnout is trying to run away from stuff, whereas you have more energy when you're moving towards something good. But I think you drain yourself fast trying to move away from something bad. But what if we could be at peace just for a moment, not even forever, just for right now, even feeling like there's something bad happening, and we could just sit with it instead of trying to pretend it's not happening or pretend we could run away from it. And what kind of relief is there? And I think the relief is huge. And I love witnessing people, coaching them through how to be with those feelings long enough to see the relief. And I think that's the difficulty, is can you be with it long enough to actually see the difference? And you know what? The truth is, you need help. I didn't get through all of this stuff completely in a vacuum by myself. I had the support of family and friends, and I used them. I would tell them what I'm feeling and be like, I'm really struggling with this today. And, get that feedback that it's okay to feel crap. It's okay to have disappointment, and it might not be true. And to have them say, well, it's not true, but I honor that you're feeling that way. God, there's relief in that. To say, I'm not trying to fix you. You're not broken. There's nothing wrong. But I get that you're feeling like crap, and I'm here. And you're going to survive it. It's going to be okay. And man, that's empowering. That's like, oh yeah, okay, I'm going to be okay. It doesn't need to change right now. It doesn't need to change in 5 minutes or 2 days or 2 weeks or 2 years. I am enough. It's okay. And then, of course, because that's how the universe works, you change. Everything changes so quickly once we're not forcing it. My friends, if you are struggling with burnout, if you're dealing with overwhelm, I am here for you, and I would love to help. It is my life's work. It's what I love doing. I love helping. And I honor your stress. I honor your experience as it is right now. And if you're interested in finding out how I could help you more and support you more, just reach out. I'm always here. You can see me at blazeschwaller.com or coachwithblaze.com, and I would be so happy to be part of that support for you. Take care, and I will see you next week.
Thanks so much for joining me. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe and share it with someone you love, and leave us a review. You can learn more and get some self-compassion tips and tricks by visiting coachwithblaze.com, where you can sign up to get my free booklet on overcoming anxiety, overwhelm, exhaustion, and burnout. I'm sending you so much appreciation and love, and I'll see you next time.